Hey YouTube, it's Ice from the Third World Wallet. I'm a Bitcoiner living here in the Philippines, and I try to cover my experience with Bitcoin adoption and all things Bitcoin from my perspective as someone that lives in a third world country. My hope is that you, the viewer, and I learn more about Bitcoin along the way with each video. Before I get into things, I want to clarify that I am not associated with any crypto exchange or service provider. I am simply a Bitcoiner sharing my thoughts on the internet. Now, this video will cover the SEC circular, the Philippine SEC circular that was released last month, and I want to give some of my thoughts on it. I want to give a shout out to the drawing board for this topic, and yeah. So let's define some terms. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency that is found in the Bitcoin network. Now, the Bitcoin network is essentially a decentralized protocol that allows for the transfer of value peer-to-peer, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, if you will. Now, it's not controlled by any one entity, but a vast network of nodes and miners all around the world, making it global in nature. And it's important to understand this viewpoint and this definition of Bitcoin in order to understand my thoughts on the CASP guidelines. Now, I want to define what a CASP is. A CASP is defined by our SEC in the Philippines as a crypto asset service provider. Now, this constitutes what a CASP is largely falls under exchanges and intermediaries, but it essentially covers entities that deal with advising, carrying out contracts and orders on behalf of their client, buying, selling, sending, storing. Now, in section 5 of the CASP guideline in the document, they highlight that crypto assets cannot be sold, offered for sale, or distributed in the Philippines without complying with the provisions of the CASP guidelines. Now, while on the surface, it seems like only exchanges will receive the brunt of these guidelines and will have to enforce it, but the SEC also have authority to be able to decide what a CASP is, meaning that they can essentially change the definition of what it is as they see fit. And my concern with that and this document mainly lies on two things. It's under the qualifications of what is required to legally operate and what services specifically fall under what a CASP is and what this could mean for some aspects in the DeFi space, specifically in Bitcoin. So, to go over the qualifications, it says that this CASP must be incorporated in the Philippines and have a license to operate under the BSP, the central bank here in the Philippines, and the SEC. This means to be incorporated in the Philippines essentially means that each company has to have a physical entity within the country. And if you were to look at it, by the way I described what Bitcoin is, the Bitcoin network could be seen as a CASP. But the problem there is that it's not controlled by any entity. Because in order to access our Bitcoin, we go through different apps. We go through different avenues in order to buy, sell Bitcoin. So my concern lies heavily on what these guidelines mean for companies that are wallet providers. Think of Blue Wallet or something like Exodus or even Phoenix. It creates a lot of problems for them to be able to provide their services because they would essentially have to set up shop here in the country when Bitcoin is a global network. And also, wallets like that don't really charge you for their service, especially self-custodian wallets. It would be very costly for these companies to have to set up shop here in the Philippines in order to provide a service such as storing your Bitcoin. And I personally am a big advocate of self custody and that you shouldn't leave your Bitcoin on an exchange. As soon as you can, you should take it off and put it into self custody. But what this circular is essentially doing is it's constricting your ability to do that, because if companies aren't allowed to operate here in the Philippines, companies like, as I said, Blue Wallet, then you're just SOL. And in my perspective, the what this entire circular is saying is that Bitcoin in itself is allowed, but you're not allowed to buy, sell, or store it without proper paperwork and license, which defeats the whole purpose of and ethos of what Bitcoin is. I want to say that Bitcoin is not anti-establishment, nor is it pro-establishment. It exists outside of the system. So it's quite complex and something that I've been wrapping my head around for the past few days thinking about it. And I do hope that these guidelines will be further informed in the future, so that those that are enforcing these guidelines would understand what this means for everyone. And yeah, those are my thoughts. I hope that these rulings will become more lenient in the future. But either way, Bitcoin's gonna keep chugging, and it's not gonna stop. It'll find a way, one way or another. So yeah, if you have any thoughts or anything to correct me on what I said, or opposing views, or if you agree, let me know down in the comments. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.